Welcome to the Phoenix Podcast, hosted by Marta Miner, with guests who have walked through fire and emerged stronger than ever. Let their stories light up your way.
Good morning, Marta. How are you?
Good morning, Ushi. Doing amazing. How are you?
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like sometimes I say amazing and I'm like, don't mean it, but right now I mean it.
Yes, we're vibing today. Oh my
High
God,
vibes.
love
Yeah.
it.
High
Yes.
vibes. Yeah. How was your week?
Oh, it was good. I was on a little vacation in San Diego and it was a lot of unexpected things, but it prompted me to go inward and not pay attention to the bad that is happening around, which there was so much of it. I'm like, this is supposed to be a vacation. Why are we struggling? So then I was like, okay, step away from that energy. Like my eyes got messed up. I had to have emergency drops called in at midnight from my doctor and couldn't wear contacts, no makeup. I'm like, this is not a vacation. Lots of crazy stuff happened. And then I'm like, okay, start being grateful. And then my energy shifted so much for the rest of the week. It is just really going back to that gratitude and seeing like what's around me. I'm like, so what? Eyeballs can't see very well, but imagination is still there.
Yeah.
So I just went inward and was so grateful. And it really transformed me. I think we'll talk about it in a minute, but
Yeah.
it's even out of something really bad, something beautiful can emerge. How was
Yeah.
your week? Tell me more about, I
Yeah.
know you had an
Well,
experience.
I think that's exactly right. First of all, I have to say that I think I'm going to go in reverse about my story this week, which is that I feel that's the case. I was pretty surprised at myself how much negativity, even though I find even like people comment, you're so positive. I love being around your energy. I love your high vibes. And I think sometimes I think to myself, really? Because I'm not, my head right now is a whole lot of mess. And no, I will say yes. Like the truth is that I, on the whole, vibrate high. Like I'm a good feeling person and I'm kind and generous and I love being around people and I'm, giggly and
Yeah.
goofy and all those things. And then there are these times, and it's all typically around my period. So the cliche is there. What can I do? And my period happens to be exactly the moon cycle. So I'm like I know when it's going to come, and it's not actually when I'm on my period that I'm grumpy, but it's like the precursor. Like this
Yeah.
PMS thing is like real. So
Not
I
for me. For some reason, I've never felt it, but I know it's an
oh
experience of a lot of people.
oh, it's like this grumpy window. First of all, let me just can I please blame my period because I'd like to blame something, but
Yes,
there's
we
this like
have to blame
level of
something.
ushi. Yes, there's this. I have to find the root cause. There's a level of ushi frustration, grumpy, like angry at the littlest things moments, like on
Yeah.
edge. And yet, I think this is a very long way of answering your story or your what you were saying about the gratitude is I have been practicing a lot because of what the women on our podcast have shared as tools with us. I have
Mhm.
been practicing turn the volume down and just this is your time to switch. It's not when you're on a mountaintop meditating, which by the way never happens. No one like who's got I don't have time to climb the mountain anymore and meditate on top of it. But when that used to happen, it's easy to go away and then come back and try to be positive, but actually the real change and the real like ascension happens in that moment when you switch it. So
Yes.
that was the week for me as well, which we generally have that where you and I feel like we're just like living parallel lives in different
Yes.
states. And it's that, okay, this agitation's coming up. Okay, cool. I don't even analyze it anymore. I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even care what story is in the past. I'm just going to switch it to who I am today.
Mhm.
And likewise, it just led to a really just peaceful and joyful presence and week for me. And of course, there's a whole lot there, but it's just a reminder to all our listeners and to us. It's not these big; those can happen, big retreats and
Mhm.
breakthroughs and all those things. But I'm finding so much progress really in the micro moments of shift. And
Mhm.
also like really aware how I was like, you complain a lot, girl. Stop complaining. It's like-
I know.
yeah.
I think it's those little moments that change the most is when you observe yourself and your behaviors that we take for granted because we live inside of our bodies and we don't know that certain things we've been pretty much doing for years, right? So you think that's a normal thing. Like looking at somebody and judging them slightly. That's normal. But those are the things that we've recently, you and I, through our conversations, determined is what's holding us back from achieving what it is that we really want. That peace of mind and whatever we've dreamed for our life is those little things. Because for the most part, you and I have done personal development and all kinds of stuff for years, for decades. So we are somewhere in the vicinity of that vibing person, the energy, the vibe that like creates and manifests, but it's the little things. And now I think both you and I are paying attention to normally I would respond to my mom this way, or normally I would do this with my child.
Mm-hmm.
And what if I tweak it a little bit and have a different response? It changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And going from whatever is happening in your life to gratitude, like that is my tool right now. That's all I'm doing. Like when I had the issue with my eyes, I don't want to be in detail, but like it was pretty bad. Like I would wake up and I couldn't even open my eyeballs. Like they were shut pretty much. And I'm like, that's my vacation. That's the vacation I've been waiting for. And I'm thinking, okay, you can either sit there and complain this entire time you're on vacation about not being able to wear makeup, having to wear glasses, and on top of that, sunglasses on top of glasses, not very comfortable. Or you can just go inward and feel the vibes of like how magical it is that you get to be here with your daughter and your mom, the three generations of, my
Beautiful.
family. That's the
Yeah.
most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And these moments may not come back. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And if you spend this entire time complaining about your eyeballs, then you miss the whole fact why you're even there. So
Yeah.
I started really, there were other things like my car got stuck. I couldn't use my rental car. I had to take Uber everywhere. And I'm like, what's the point of paying for a rental car? I can't even use it. So that first day was a lot of like negative emotions. And then I'm like, switch it, because what is the outcome that you want? I want the peaceful, quiet, beautiful vacation. So I was able to turn it around, but it was me who was creating it.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever happens, but how we respond to it is whether we're going to have a good time or not.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. It was just an unexpected hard week with the kids last week. Their teacher, he died in a motorcycle accident.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and this was probably the listeners are like, whoa, this conversation just turned. So I want to share that I think in times it's tragedy. This is a young
Yeah.
kid. He's not even 24. And
Wow.
the kids just, when I say the kids, that my boys particularly, he had a way with the older boys in the classrooms around just being really good with their energy and liking it. And it's just an interesting thing when we said goodbye to him. So firstly, I want to share that thing that you said about this could not be. This thing that I'm complaining about could not be very quickly. That was like on my mind, right? Because he wasn't ill. It was
Mm,
just an accident. And so one day something's rolling the way it you think it should or is, and then the next day it's not there is such a reminder of
mm.
life. So
Yeah.
that's where it went. Now, of course, the boys are moving in and out of grief, and
How did you guys tell them about it? Like, how do you even have a conversation with a 5-year-old like that?
so I at first I avoid it like the plague, and then I was like, no,
Mm.
you're the grown up here. You're the one that has to be the mom. And I find that's the most challenging moments of the mom is
Yeah.
to try to get the language for hard moments. And I don't like to see my kids sad, but they are so beautiful that they can experience deep sadness. And then 2 seconds later, they've moved through that emotion. And then they're like as excited about life as before. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful to watch. But this is the thing about the negativity and how I started to watch how many times a day I was taking certain things for granted, even though I think I'm
Mhm.
a grateful person. And his passing and the suddenness of it and having to be with my kids in it moment to moment is where I really started to see just the language change. Ushi, I get to go with my kids to get this thing that normally I wouldn't want to get. I get to feed them dinner. I get to tickle them. I get to be in this tough conversation because it means I have kids. And along those
100%.
same lines, some tragedies happened that week. I heard three of them. And
Mm.
so I did feel a sense of sadness about life and I was really sitting with it. And then when you're sad, this strange place of not explaining away the sadness to your children, but being in it. But how to be in the sadness and the grief in gratitude is so profoundly peaceful. So that's what I wanted to share in relation to what you were saying is that I really found this place of peace. And that's how I talk to my kids. I told them I don't have the right answers. And
Mm-hmm.
what they had heard from school is the school left it up to the parents to share with their kids within each family. And what they did hear was that he was injured. And I took the route of being straightforward. Yes, he
Mm-hmm.
was injured and he didn't make it. He died. And I use those language. I didn't make it up. I read from
Mm-hmm.
experts on how to do it. And that one felt
Yeah.
right for me that they knew that if there was hard information in the world, that they could come to their parents to get the grounded facts and
Yes.
support that they need versus a made up story or avoidance. So it was really important to me to share the straightforwardness of it. And then you have to like not have your opinion or judgment about it in the way of their experience
Mm.
and their questions. Where did he go? What happened to his body? Is that going to happen to everyone that rides a
I
motorcycle? Is
know.
it?
That's what really scares me is the questions. If he could go, then what about me? Could
Yeah.
I die?
Yeah.
Those things that it's like scary because how can you guarantee your child that no, it will never happen to you or to mommy or to daddy?
Yes.
Those things open up the doors to something that I'm so uncomfortable with.
That's yes. But that was the strange thing prior to the death. So first of all, this happened on Easter. Within all
Oh,
that is this holiday, this
yeah.
celebration of
Yeah.
resurrection and life.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose somebody and the world at one point lost somebody that
Yeah.
weekend in not such a beautiful way, but then it turned into something beautiful. So I really we didn't I'm not I didn't grow up in the Christian or Catholic faith, but I love Easter for the resurrection and what it stands for. And I really felt like I still get the chills about it, right? Because that's what you're talking about. It's moment to moment resurrection. It's moment to moment ascension. And sure, these are epic stories that I've just presented, but that's what I was seeing because there was so much of me that wanted to fix it for them and have it be over.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the fluidity of how they're moving. So they heard the news and then it looked like they were fine. And then they came home the next day and I was like, they're not fine. Like I can tell they were starting to fight and just cry over nothing seemingly. And it was the being with it that I think I resist, not just with this situation, but in life in general, being with
Mm-hmm.
life and letting it unfold and then knowing, switch it, turn it, resurrect. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was what I was feeling. And of course, here it was all a precursor to the beautiful eclipse that we were able to
Mm-hmm.
witness in Austin, the full eclipse. And so here we are, resurrection, eclipse, shifting your thought pattern, like life, death, kids feeling it. And
Mm-hmm.
yet I will say to you, this is part of what makes me feel so happy and amazing, like I said, is that I do feel that the tools and who I am today moving through it with peace in my heart. And I this it will all be okay. I don't think I always thought that, but it will all be
Yeah.
okay. It'll be okay. It's my eyeballs feel annoying right now, but it will be okay. And so that's what I've been swimming in. Not I am swimming in it.
Yeah,
And
and I think somebody's death, I think, is like the biggest sacrifice. That's my belief system. I'm not throwing it on anybody, but I always see somebody who's dying, passing away, leaving something for those left behind to remind them what life is. And I
yes,
think it's like the most beautiful sacrifice. Like, I'm gonna go so you can appreciate, because every time it happens when it's close, like family or somebody like a teacher, somebody that impacts you daily, you start thinking about life very differently. Like all of a sudden, the crusty eyeballs don't really bother you anymore because you're still alive, you know? It's
exactly.
like
Exactly.
those things, like I
Yes.
always feel like it's the biggest sacrifice that gives such a gift to us to remember
Yes.
every day is precious.
Yeah.
It's difficult to have these conversations, it's difficult to mourn, yet you're still alive and you still have a
Yes.
chance to go another day, appreciate your kids, do whatever you want to do in your life, and everything gets put in perspective very quickly,
Mhm.
especially like such a young man.
Such a young
That's
man.
it's so
Yes.
tragic, but it happens all. We don't know why. We haven't been on the other side yet. Whatever your belief system is, but it all makes perfect sense in the universe, how it all unfolds, right?
Yes,
It,
I used Kung Fu Panda to explain to them, which this is, I know you gotta laugh, but this is like Ushi's parenting tactics.
I've never seen
Um,
Kung Fu Panda, so I don't
well,
know.
I would recommend you see it because it is so, but the reason I say that is because they have the scene where somebody comes back from the spirit realm. And so it shows life and death as another world, but not
Mm,
necessarily any like connotation of somebody's happier on the other side. Or it was just an interesting way to say there's some sort of transition, but I didn't have anything else to show them, at least to have a framework for the conversation.
hmm.
And they were asking me too, Mommy, what happened to Jesus? Why did he die? Why do we have eggs? And I was like, oh
Yeah,
my
how can
goodness.
you even have that conversation with a 5-year-old? That's so hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get to have that in church, and we don't, again, like we're not in the Christian faith, so we don't go to church regularly, but I'm sure they talk about that in Bible study or things like that, and I would have had the language, but I just didn't have the language. So I was like, cool, we're going to use, because I do believe in that. Like, I think that I always have felt supported by God in that way, where every time I'm struggling with something, language or knowing something, it like shows up in YouTube or it like somebody comes and they send me a book. Or so in that way, I felt like we had just watched Kung Fu Panda 4, where the person comes from the spirit realm back. So I was like, I'm going to use this right or wrong, I'm going to use this. And it worked because that allowed me, it's not that they're going to believe in Kung Fu Panda as everything. It allowed the opening to have the conversation with them about what is a spirit realm? Where did his body go? Why did his body stop working? And that's what got
Mhm.
me in touch with the gratitude because I started to say, oh, yeah, look at my toes. They're moving. And oh, yeah, I'm breathing. And I do feel connected to my body most of the time, but I
Mhm.
thought to myself, did I ever say thank you to my lungs? I haven't said thank you to my lungs today. And so that was what was the opportunity of something hard was like, I got to be with my kids in that way and let them
Mhm.
ask the hard questions.
Mhm.
And they did it like last night, like now every night it's like, where did he go? He's in the spirit realm. Like this whole conversation's ensuing between the two of them. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
and it will keep coming because as they
Yeah.
think of something new a month from now, you're like, oh, we've moved on. And they just think of something. And
Yes.
I don't know at what age, like you have understanding. We're older and we don't have full understanding because we don't really know. We go by trust in our belief system. But my daughter started to ask so many questions recently about dying. When is grandma going to die?
Yes.
And what about this grandma? And then
Yes.
yesterday she asked, Mommy, can anybody die? Yeah, baby, it's possible. Can you die?
Yes.
Technically, but mommy's not gonna die. Can I die, mommy? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable because I don't
Yes.
want to lie, but I also or scare her. Yet at the same time, those questions are starting to come. And
Yes.
like we are Christians and I believe in going to heaven. So I tell her, like, oh, grandma, Minor is already there in heaven and blah, blah, blah. She said, can I ask her a question if there are toys there? Are there toys in heaven, mommy?
Yes. Of course
Of
there's
course,
toys.
everything you
Yes.
want is there,
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's real with the kids. Like it really keeps you on your toes. But it's
Yes.
also a beautiful thing that we get to imprint them in whatever our belief system is and
Yes.
lead them that way.
I do personally believe death is beautiful. I don't consider it a bad thing. I think it's hard for the people that have to say goodbye to the person that's dying. And I also think that there are ways that people die that are very hard, for sure. I will never negate
Yes.
that. But I fundamentally believe that we merge in some way with our creator, however you see the creator. But
Hmm.
that's a lot to tell a 5 and 3 year old. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know how to say that except for to say it, by the way. I did eventually just say it because I thought, even if they ignore me or whatever, mom, it's also some of me is out there. But even that, Marta, is what got me to see this is the thing. It sounds so mundane. Stop complaining. But it was exactly that moment when I'm like, then why, Ushi, would you ever spend any waking moment or any part of your life in the muck? Like,
Hmm.
why?
Hmm.
And I can still feel, again, my body just like lights up when I say that because that's the thing is, okay, you have a choice right now. You definitely have a choice. Do you want to be the one that uses her breath to complain, or do you want to be the one that uses her breath to lift people up or get
Yeah.
excited for people or say, good for you, you go? Or are you going to use your minutes in your head, this precious real estate in your head to get mad at somebody? I'm not
Hmm.
saying don't be angry. I'm not saying don't feel emotion, but
Yeah.
like how moment to moment is when it matters. And so that's, I really appreciated like this last week being a very moment to moment
Hmm.
way of being because I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what wave was going to hit next. Like in
Yeah.
one, they really are like one moment they're just completely crying and it's over something like that. If he died, that means you're going to die. And I'm sad about that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to not say, but then of course I do say, but I'm choosing to live till 100. So
Yeah.
I'll be around for a while, but that's still, it's not for them. The motion of it is still there.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, I believe that death just reminds us to be more alive at all times because we're all going through something, right? Like we're all going through some kind of crap in life. Everybody is, whether it's like you're going through financial crisis or relationship crisis or something is wrong with your kids or your hair is falling out, like whatever. And we put so much attention on that thing that we don't want that you forget about the gift of life and forget about possibilities and amazing things. And I'm personally going through something super challenging, probably the most challenging period of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
for a while, I was thinking, once I get through it,
Mm-hmm.
then I will be fully myself and be happy and things will align. And I'm like, no, you don't know if you have tomorrow. So I really started changing my energy of whatever is going through. It's turmoil and it's challenging and painful. Yet I still want to be the full best version of myself because I don't know if I'll get to the other side. I don't know if I have another year. I don't know any of that. And I can choose to go through bullshit and horrible stuff and be present and happy, aligned, smiling, right? Like they can coexist. I didn't know before that it's possible to be
Yes.
in pain and happy at the same time. You just put more attention towards the happy thoughts and happy things that are happening in your life. We all dwell in some kind of negativity. There is always something happening, but where you
Yes.
set your attention is that's where you grow in that direction.
And for me, that's what you said is true power. That's when I feel my most empowered is where do you want to place your attention? It's all there. You can
Mm-hmm.
find anything wrong with the world. You really can. And it probably is true for the person that's paying attention to that. Like when I'm paying attention to that, then it becomes my truth, right? But then I thought again, it's oh cool. So then where are you going to place your attention? And so what was so I have a very the other thing that happened, of course, is this eclipse. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize it was I did realize there was like a million people that descended upon Austin. So it was a big deal. I got it. And there are people who are like buying flights to be able to see the eclipse. It's a big deal. But in India, it's not considered auspicious or not everybody believes you should be looking at the eclipse. That's actually a time where you should go inward and pray. And so I was feeling a bit of both, right? I did go
Mm-hmm.
inward and pray. But as the eclipse started, we were going outside and everyone's got their gear. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, are the Indian gods going to smite me because I'm like, literally, this is what's going through. We should get over it. So I got over it. And all of our neighbors were sitting in their driveways. And there was this moment where they asked us in Austin to stop because there were so many people and they wanted to make sure, no one's driving fast and somebody's looking at the eclipse. So they
Mm-hmm.
really asked, and the city did do it, right? Lots of people, like, I don't know if everybody did it, for the most part, people did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so people were home and the kids were home from school. And I remember walking out and feeling this incredible feeling of oneness because there was a moment in my city where everyone was focused on the same thing. And it was quiet and there was stillness in the air, excitement. People were talking. My kids were talking the loudest. Like it was very cute. And they were all explaining what an eclipse was. And there was like such a togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, oh, this is the stillness that we're after in this world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was like even now, I keep saying going back to my body, but there has always been, as fit as I am, as athletic as I am, there's just always been this heaviness in my body, particularly in my shoulder blades. And I could physically feel it lifting. And I was like, is this because I don't have boundaries and I'm constantly as an empath feeling what everybody else feels? And it was a visceral reaction of what was theirs, what was mine, because nobody had anything. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was like, we're all watching the eclipse right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
really quiet. Nobody's working. Nobody was on a phone because everyone was trying to catch it in between the clouds. And it
Mm-hmm.
was so beautiful. And I remember feeling like, this is what we want in life. This is what we're going for. So it was like this amazing week of Easter, beautiful, happy, all these egg hunts, resurrection, like gut heartbreaking moment, grief. And of course, also your grief then goes back to your other grief. Oh, grumpiness, period. Like all these things happening. Meanwhile, you're also in San Diego. So I was like, great, she's on vacation and I want to blow up her phone. And then I had a family, my dad's best friend's family was the daughters were in town and there are good friends. And we were like having a family moment. And then there's crying and then there's an eclipse. And then there was this stillness.
Yeah,
And it was so beautiful. And so what I really felt was the goal of life, right? I don't know why. It just like it eclipsed, like my mind just finally recognized you're not here for the things that you're here for. We're here for this. It was so beautiful. And then, of course,
yeah.
the eclipse is over and everyone
And then,
starts
and then go back,
butterflying off.
everybody goes
Yeah.
back to the normal busy life. But
Yeah.
that moment that you're describing, because here in Arizona, we didn't really have that. So that's why I texted you, like, are you watching? I wish
Yes.
I we had
Yeah.
30% or something, so pretty nothing. But when you're describing that moment, it's like I think the world that you and I want to live in is that world where people are present, paying attention,
Mm.
seeing each other, observing the same thing. We're all one, it's humanity. But
Mhm.
in daily life, it gets so lost because
Mhm.
everybody is too busy to notice the present moment. What does it take? What does it usually take? COVID did that for us.
Yeah.
We stood still for a second. 9/11 did that.
9/11.
People
Yeah.
reunited.
Hmm.
It has to be something really big or catastrophic, or this time it wasn't. It was something beautiful, but it was nature
Hmm.
intervened. And people for a second feel that we're all one, we're all together, we all have families, we all have the same really goals in life. We just want to have happy families and good life. And but in daily hustle, that gets lost. And
Yes.
I'm like, I want to live in that world where all the neighbors are outside and there's nowhere to rush because you can't go anywhere.
Nowhere to rush. But that's what it did. I thought, okay, now I don't want to walk away from this experience having it return to what I was feeling like last week.
Yeah, yeah.
Grumpy Ushi. Grumpy Ushi's coming back. There's a children's book called Grumpy Bear. And every time I read it, I was like, this is so my
That's
book.
you.
Yes, Grumpy Bear. Yeah, because for
I
as
had seen that side of you of the grumpiness.
I don't
Uh,
show it. I don't show it.
it's
It's not a
only for
grump. Johnny Boy gets some grumpy. He does get so he's probably, oh yeah, that is Ushi is the grumpy bear, not the honey bear. Because my Nico is obsessed with the honey bear. He loves that honey comes in a bear package. By the way, so I digress. But he's just this is like This is what I'm saying. The wonders of life is that bear with honey in it for him. He's just
Mhm.
so lit up about it. He's lit up about things that really is it. Like he is so lit up about what I deem as silly, quote unquote. And I thought if I wanted to continue this eclipse experience, I'm going to do that.
Yes,
I'm going
learn
to
from
live
the
a
kids.
life. Yes, my new goal is to live a life where I revel and I savor and I get tickled by the honey bear versus the grumpy bear.
100%.
Yeah, because they're like right now also he's got this red Hot Wheels red car. This thing was like 50 cents. It's like literally his best friend and he loves it and he literally reveres it. He praises his Hot Wheel car. He sleeps with his Hot Wheel car. And I think to me, like at first you're like, enough with the Hot Wheel car, but then I'm like, no, he's onto something. He's so in delight over every little thing and the popsicle and the thing. And that's the childlike wonder. I want that as part of my
Yes.
everyday moment. That's how I want to spend my time.
It's learning from kids, like how innocent everything is and how you can be in the moment and play. My daughter is now Sonic. She's obsessed with Sonic. I came upon on Easter, I think it was
Yes.
playing on some channel. And I let her watch it because I don't let her really watch a lot of, I think it's a little bit too much for me. But anyway,
Yes.
this one was cute. It was a movie for grown-ups. So she's so proud mommy let her watch. And she just plays Sonic all day. Mommy, you be Tails and I'm gonna be Sonic, and that's all it is. And I'm like, we treat everything so seriously. Those kids can teach us like how to be in
Yes.
the moment, how to just
Yes.
have a joy. Like when you were talking, I don't know how, but the biggest lesson I think I learned was from my miniature schnauzer back in the day. I don't know how that even came up, but I just remember that one time he had something wrong with his paw, and I had to walk him multiple times a day, right? And every time we would go for a walk, he was so excited that he was on three legs, right? This paw was up in the air, and he did not sit there and cry about it. My paw is hurting so bad. He was smelling those flowers like there was no
Yes.
tomorrow. He was
Yes.
so happy. He was still in the joy. And I'm like, but doesn't your paw hurt? I would not want to go outside if my something was hurting me. And I certainly would not be enjoying the flowers. I would be in my mind thinking about all the bad, right? But then my dog, I watched him and I'm like, he is not fazed by it whatsoever. We can learn so much from animals and from children
Mm.
because they're still, especially animals, right? They don't have all the thoughts and craziness that we have going on. But children are also so innocent in their approach and every little thing, like a honey bear. Honey bears are just like a marvel of this world. And
Yes.
like, when did you look at anything recently and marveled at it? Like, I still see
Yes.
that in the ocean, still gets me to
Uh-huh.
that point. But everything else we've seen, and I can't see it through the innocent eyes anymore. It's
Yes.
hard.
I can. This is the thing. I don't love that it takes big moments like these last weeks to remind me, but it's okay because I do want to make a distinction between positivity and optimism and what we're talking about. I think you can be, I think I've heard the phrase toxic positivity where you're not actually, you're just like, oh, but everything's fine, everything. And, or holding people to having it be fine all the time when genuinely you're hurting or something needs to be addressed. And so I want to distinguish that because I do find that I'm a positive person and I'm optimistic. What I find is really holding me back and really opening when you talk about being open to receive, or when you talk about grace, or when you talk about, yeah, just that part that blocks really the good energy of the world, God, and the things
Hmm.
that you want, or the abundance of the world. It's like it's those thought patterns. And
Hmm.
that's the thing that I'm noticing, that again, I've never felt more powerful, because that's the exciting moment for me, is I'm like, oh yeah, I do have a choice. When I used to hear that, I was like, I don't really have a choice. This person's a jerk. They're a jerk. Like, I have no choice. I don't have no choice if this person keeps showing up as a jerk. And then if you do, they can, and that's what's also been happening. I'm like, I don't have time. If this person wants to be a jerk, good for you. I
Hmm.
cannot let that bring me to a
Hmm.
place of anything except for where I am. So
Hmm.
it's not, it's more about my state versus being positive or negative, I should say. Like, it's really, what do I allow influence me? What do I allow to influence me? But, and also not letting anyone influence me, right? It's so
That's
easy to
the
say
biggest
they are
power.
yeah, like they're like this, and so that's why I'm like this. And I thought I had nipped that one, and then when I started to really observe myself this last week in grumpy bear state, I'm like, oh, look at this,
Yeah.
Ushi. Your state is everyone else's fault. Like, it was just like, no.
Yeah, and I think we all have these few people in our lives that we blame, like they change my energy.
Yes.
And it's because of that, how they show up. They're negative, so it brings me down. But to me, my goal of my life is that no human being can impact my energy level whatsoever. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I came so close to it. There's still two people in my life that can drastically impact my energy. But I know, because you and I had a conversation last week, I think about it, is that those little tweaks is it's what's not allowing me to manifest the life that I know I deserve and want. And it's almost here,
Mm-hmm.
except for those two people that keep showing up in my life that I cannot get rid of no matter what, because it's all either family or somebody that has to be in my life. Those people constantly change my energy. And I'm like, I need to work on, I'll never achieve the things that I want in my life because I constantly get shifted. And when you fall out of the positive, and not the fake positive, but the vibe that you and I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when we just talk, the vibe is just, I feel like we're floating, like
Mm-hmm.
I literally could fly away. They bring my energy down to the level of argue back. They're saying this, I'm going to say this. And in my opinion, I think you've arrived when you can carry your energy any room you walk into, anywhere you are, you're truly yourself, you're vibing high, and
Mm,
nobody can touch it.
nobody.
Like the goal from my life, like not the
Mhm,
millions of dollars, it's being not affected by anybody and truly just going through life being you,
mhm.
right? And
Yes.
these people can be there or not, whatever. It's cool. Yeah, they're negative.
No,
I feel
that's
bad for them.
yeah, that's why I said that's true empowerment. That's power, right? Because you just let the whole world revolve around you and it's going to continue to revolve and do what it does, but you get to be in control of where in fact, I would argue that's the only thing you have control over. You have no control over other people, but the only thing you have control over is how you're showing up and who you are. So, anyways, I
Yeah.
think I'm super happy that we got to talk about it as usual. And I think I invite everyone into these conversations with us. We want to hear from you at she.is.the.phoenix on Instagram. And we've got some exciting guests that we know you're going to love coming soon. And thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. Have a great week. And hear you, feel you, see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Phoenix podcast. We appreciate your support. We would not be here without you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with your friends or family members who might benefit from it as well. And please don't forget to leave us a review. We appreciate you and we'll see you next time.